welcome back to the episode of MDK Racing Victory Stop. My name is Jett. Hope you're having a great day. This Martinsville race was a test for what the future looks like for short track racing for the NASCAR Cup Series. Obviously, we know that NASCAR tested a new next-gen package back in Richmond that was supposed to be the lowest amount, or back at Phoenix, I should say, that was supposed to be the lowest downforce ever on the Cup car since I think the 80s or the 90s. And a lot of people were looking forward to this race out of curiosity because the previous two Martinsville races last year with this new next-gen car were pretty bad. Now, with the hope of a new next-gen package, they were hoping that the race would be at least bearable, and it was. There was a lot of progress that was made to this race. This race was much better than last year. However, there's still a lot of work that needs to be done. First off, one thing we need to do, either now for the rest of the short track racing series or in 2024, NASCAR has to get rid of stage cautions, because stage cautions, I think, severely hurt how good of a race this could have been. Because one thing I've noticed is that rubber was being laid down. You know, the track was starting to come alive, but it took so long for that to happen. And once you throw a caution out, all you're doing is resetting. You're basically just resetting back to square one. In stage 1 and stage 2, they were long green flag runs. I think there was only 1 or 2 actual natural cautions in the first 2 stages. So there was, near the end of the race, there was able for a character to start building on the racetrack, and you started to see some comers and goers. But because there was a caution right thereafter, we start back at square one. So let's start off with the beginning. The beginning, it seemed as though that Stewart-Haas Racing was starting to come alive. We have been talking about since the beginning of this year with the new drivers that they had with Briscoe in the 14, Priest in the 41, and Almirola in the 10. With Harvick leaving at the end of this year, a lot of people looked at this team as going through a rebuild and not a good one at best. But this race, all 4 came to play, especially Ryan Priest. Not only did he start on the pole, he was on fire. He would lead 136 laps and led wire to wire to win stage 1. Not only that, but SHR finished 1st, 2nd, 5th, and 6th, respectively, in the top 10 in stage 1. Now, while SHR was doing really good, one driver that was struggling was Team Penske's Joey Logano. Joey Logano, he finished 2nd in this race, but you would not know that if you just watched the entirety of the race, because he just had a bad day. First of all, he had to start at the rear due to his team finding a water leak in his car. So because of that, they had to make an adjustment that was unapproved. They had to start at the rear. Now, because Martinsville, even though it's better this year than it was last year, it's still very, very difficult to pass. So if you're 24th, 25th, you're basically stuck there. And that's what happened with Logano. It didn't take long for Priest to catch up and put him 1 lap down. But in stage 2, with 48 laps to go, a single car spin with Harrison Burton brought out the caution, and drivers came onto pit road. 3 of them got busted for speeding: Bubba Wallace, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., and Ryan Priest, who looked to be the car to beat this year when he had that pit road speeding penalty. That basically just took him out of contention because he was outside the top 20, and just, again, when you're back there, it's nearly impossible to move your way up towards the front. Now, again, there were some moments of that bean and banging Martinsville racing that we were used to seeing in the later years of the next gen car. Ross Chastain stayed out after that Harrison Burton spin, got alongside with his teammate Daniel Suarez. When the green flag came out, Chastain was able to get ahead, but it was Suarez and Almirola got into a little bean and banging, got into each other, pushing each other out of the way, and that allowed the 38 car of Todd Gillen to get on the inside 3 wide and take 2nd place. Now, he wasn't able to hold it for so long, but Gillen had a great run, showed some real speed, and I think this season was kind of showing that potential that Todd Gillen can have. We know that this year is basically kind of the year where he has to either put up or shut up, because obviously front row is looking at maybe replacing him for Zane Smith. So races like this are a great way for Gillen to show not only front row, but also other teams that, hey, look what I can do. You know, with the equipment that I'm in, I'm still able to go up against these guys and pass them and actually beat them. But later, near the end of the stage, Chastain on those older tires started to fall off, and 2 other SHR drivers started to emerge. In stage 1, it was Ryan Priest and Eric Almirola. Stage 2, it was Kevin Harvick and Chase Briscoe that would emerge up to the top 2, and they would finish 1 and 2 with Harvick getting the stage 2 victory. But that was the end of SHR's dominance, really. Stage 1 was about Priest, mainly Priest, and Almirola was right behind. Stage 2 was mainly about Harvick and Briscoe, while stage 3 was about anyone that's not a Ford driver, really, because Denny Hamlin We know how good he is in Martinsville. He emerged as the top guy and I was able to challenge the SHR drivers of Harvick and Briscoe and was able to pass them in a long green flag run. And then we got some of that little Martinsville flair back into it. In a long green flag run, obviously you're coming up on lap leaders. Hamlin got into it with his driver, Bubba Wallace. Now Hamlin pushed Bubba out of the way first, and then Bubba, obviously not happy about that, came back and just would not stop hitting Hamlin's bumper. He hit him, I think, 8 or 9 times in the past 2 laps. But then around that, when that was going on, now you bring Justin Haley into the mix and you bring other lap cars into the mix. All of a sudden, Hamlin's in a box. He's in a hornet's nest. Around that time, we saw the final real round of green flag pit stops take place. Harvick in second place, he pits all by himself with ease, while Hamlin, he's in the middle of a mess. So because of that, after pit stops, Harvick is able to leapfrog Hamlin by more than a second. But 5 drivers, Daniel Suarez, Bubba Wallace, Michael McDowell, Martin Truex Jr., and Joey Logano, they all stayed out on that round of green flag pit stops, banking on a caution, and they got that with 100 laps to go when Anthony Alfredo's right rear tire came loose and was basically stopped right on the edge of turn 4. Now, it was quite concerning and almost laughable that it took NASCAR, I think, 2 laps or so to actually see the tire. When the TV cameras were showing it immediately, it took NASCAR another minute or 2 to actually throw the caution, which I think that says a lot because that probably means that NASCAR doesn't even watch the TV feed, which is kind of dumb. But it was a funny thing to see that there's this tire. It's sitting basically in the middle of the racetrack. It's not really the middle, but it's on the racetrack, loose. And for the longest time, there was no caution. So yeah, those 5 drivers stayed out, banking on that caution, and they got it. Now, while those 5 drivers pitted, you had 3 drivers of Reddick, I believe it was Briscoe and Larson. They stayed out, so they were able to get ahead and restarted the race. Briscoe and Larson had a little bit of a scrap, but Briscoe was able to go out ahead and build up to a big size lead until another caution comes out for JJ Yeley, who overhauled into turn number 3, either had no brakes, had some type of issue, and stopped in the middle of 3 and 4. Now, when that caution came out, drivers came on the pit road one final time. Larson took 2 tires, very critical point. He took 2 tires that came out first on pit road, while 4 or 5 drivers stayed out. Drivers like Hamlin, I believe Almirola, Stenhouse, and Logano. But the driver that everyone was looking at to possibly steal the win was Kevin Harvick, because he pitted for 4 tires and was in contention to win when one of the oddest things happened. I still don't know how this took place, but basically his right front lug nut came off of the car. Not the wheel itself, but just the lug nut came off of the car and onto the racetrack. Now, because of this, obviously, his right front tire is starting to go flat, starting to cut inside, so Harvick had to come onto pit road to fix that, and that basically took him out of contention, which is a real shame since I thought that he really had the car to beat after Ryan Preece. But that basically brought the race win down to Joey Logano and Larson. Logano was able to get out to a lead, but with Larson with those 2 fresher tires, was able to close in on Logano, put the bumper to him, move him out of the way to go by, and he will not look back. He will go on to win at Martinsville to take home the checker flag with Logano in second. Here's a look at the race results. Martin Truex Jr. in third. Now Truex Jr. started about 9th or 10th in this on the final restart and just drove his way up towards the front with ease. If there was a caution, Truex could more than likely been the guy to beat for the race win, but settles for a 3rd place, his first top 5 of the season. Denny Hamlin and Chase Briscoe, the top 5. Eric Almirola, Ryan Blaney, who did not have a good run today, ends up in 7th. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Bubba Wallace, who recovers from the pit road speeding incident, finished 9th. And how about Chase Elliott in his first race back in 6 weeks following his leg injury, finishes inside the top 10. And an interesting thing about Joey Logano is that he had an average running position of around 21-22, 21st or 22nd place. I mean, he went from going a lap down at the beginning of the race to coming home in 2nd is unbelievable. Other drivers like Alex Bowman, Austin Dillon, Ross Chastain, Chris Buescher, and Ryan Preece was able to salvage a 15th place finish, but very disappointing considering the car he had. And then you got Christopher Bell, Daniel Suarez, Ty Gibbs, Michael McDowell, and Kevin Harvick, the top 20. Kyle Busch had an off day today, 21st. Reddick also had issues, finishes in 22nd. Byron had a vibration near the end of the race, 23rd. Keselowski got trapped when he came onto pit road when that caution came out with Anthony Alfredo. Ty Gillen finishes 25th after he had a cylinder go down late in the race. And the rest of the field, you see Legacy Motor Club teammates Gregson and Jones 30th and 31st, Cindric 33rd, and then Anthony Alfredo and JJ Yeley round out the field. So yeah, again, nothing much else to say except this race was better than last year, but still a lot of work needs to be done. I'd give this race a 6.5 out of 10. It was better, but still, there's still a lot of work that needs to be done. There is rubber that is being laid down, but again, it takes so long for that to activate that the stage cautions just kind of kill the momentum. I will say though that the track, or the race I should say, really came to life when the sun came out. Under cloudy conditions, there were spots, but it wasn't really there. But once the sun came out, it kind of like activated the track and activated the next gen cars to really start racing with each other. So I think that's a recommendation to never go back to night racing for the time being, but it did get a lot better when the sun was out, but it's still a track, or still something that NASCAR needs to fix, needs to get their arms wrapped around it, because even though it's made improvements, it improved Richmond, it improved Phoenix slightly, but there still needs a lot of work that needs to be done. The main issue is the shifting. When you shift, you conserve, or basically preserve, your tires a lot longer than normal, a lot less rubber gets laid out. So that's a real big issue that NASCAR needs to fix, either by the end of next year or by the end of this year for the next short track race, or in 2024. I recommend one quick fix, and that's to get rid of stage cautions. You can still have the stage points, but get rid of the stage cautions, because I feel like that hurted the racing product here today. Had the race was able to go on to a really long green flag run, we would have seen more rubber being laid down, and I think we would have seen a lot more tire fall off, a lot more comers and goers than what we saw here today. Very surprised to see how well SHR did, and all 4 cars, usually with SHR, the last 2-3 years has always been Kevin Harvick and SHR, but this time, all 4 showed really strong speed. Priest, led over 100 some odd laps. Harvick was in contention to win. Almirola had speed. I was surprised by how well all 4 ran. I think this shows that if they can get their cars right, all 4 can be contenders. So it's a car issue, maybe not so much of a driver issue, but I'm very interested in seeing how these 4 SHR cars can do in the weeks ahead. And also nice to see Chase Elliott back in NASCAR. And again, he had a subpar race, was in the top 15, top 20 for the entire race, and was able to get a top 10 out of it. So nice run for that 9 team. And yeah, don't know what else to say really, but it's better, but we still need a lot of work that needs to be done. But what did you think of the race? Did you like it? Did you not? Tell me in the comment section down below. Until next time, my name is Jett from MDK. Congratulations to Kyle Larson, your winner at Martinsville.